The Go Nows is back. Less than 2 weeks to go into the NFL draft. There are players soaring up boards right now, so we'll break down those prospects, those rumors, but also give you where they could go in the draft, which teams they can land with. So excited about this one. Let's do it. Louisville quarterback Tyler Shough getting all kinds of buzz lately as an unnamed coach that has made somewhat of a prediction that Shough will be the best quarterback from this class down the road. That's pretty high praise right there. So do more teams believe that? I mean, he is a pro-ready, older, wiser prospect. He has experience in, he's with Oregon, a lot of hype there, but Texas Tech he played pretty well for, and then Louisville in a pro-style offense this year played very well for. He's got the prototypical size, arm strength. Again, just play some hero ball, and I think that comes from being under pressure, not wanting to get sacked, maybe because the durability considers the past injury. So that is the major concern. He's taking a ton of visits right now, and I take those visits serious because, especially with the guys that have the durability concerns, because teams obviously like that guy on tape. They bring him in to make sure he's cleared medically. So it just shows they have interest. Sometimes the visits are smoke, teams making it seem like they're going to draft this guy. But when they bring in a guy like this, it means something. So it's sounding like he could end up going a lot earlier than expected. Teams don't want to reach on a quarterback in round one. They would rather take best player available and then get a pro-ready guy like this in early round two or somewhere in that range. I think the absolute ceiling would be late round one. I'm not counting on it, but we cannot rule that out. He's a quarterback. Teams think highly of him. He's got experience in different systems, got the prototypical size. And teams like to trade up. Teams reach for quarterbacks as it is, and then teams like to trade up in the first round, or not necessarily trade up. Maybe you're already there in the back end of the first round and get the fifth-year option because first-round picks have a fifth-year option on the contract. That's pretty big when it comes to quarterbacks. So I cannot rule that out late round one. I think the absolute floor would be early round three, but it sure sounds like he's going much earlier than that right now. I'm going to predict right now that he's going to go early round two, and again, one of those teams could move up to get that fifth-year option. I really look at a team like the Saints. They've done a lot of homework on him. They brought him in. It just all depends on, something we really don't know. Nobody knows but the Saints is, did they clear him when it comes to the medicals? That's really all it's about right now. And Derek Carr situation health-wise with him, then do they bring in another quarterback that might have that concern? That's kind of the argument against that. But totally can see that. Do they take Shedeur at 9, or they just take best player available and take a guy like Shough in day 2? Can totally see that. Browns kind of in the same boat. Doesn't sound like they're going to take a quarterback with that second overall pick, and they definitely could look to grab one on day 2. We almost expect them to take one on day 2. Could it be a guy like Tyler Shough? The Giants almost in the same boat. Steelers could be a sneaky team here. Other teams that have done a lot of homework on Shough include the Raiders, Seahawks, Jets. There's a few other teams out there. I believe the Colts maybe. I'm not really counting on them grabbing him unless he drops a little bit, but been linked to the Rams a little bit, even though they haven't done a ton of homework on him. Just the connection, or system fit with Sean McVay makes a lot of sense. But what doesn't make sense is you have Stafford for a couple more years. Do you bring in an older prospect to sit? I think he's going to be more for teams that may want him to start, right now. I really think the Saints have pretty strong interest in him. So a name to watch, could surprise a lot of people where he ends up going in the draft. A very notable top prospect here, Will Campbell, offensive tackle from LSU. Somewhat recently at his pro day, arm length measured at 33 inches, which was significantly higher than the combine, and it's a solid number for him, so that was a big win. It also sounds like teams are taking the pro day numbers more serious this year in the combine. We've seen quotes from people in the league that teams aren't, specifically with Will Campbell, aren't worried about the arm length long enough. They're not super long, but long enough, but he's just a super good talent on tape, which is a fact. So it just sounds like teams are all on him, and the ceiling's the 4th overall pick with the Patriots. The floor is the 10th pick to the Chicago Bears, even though I don't really think he gets there. Very likely. And I said it in my last mock a couple weeks ago. I mocked him to the Patriots 4, and I said it's going to take a bit for me to change that prediction. I could change it. There's some other options, but I'm somewhat pretty confident in that right now. So I think he lands 4th with the Patriots if he gets by that point. You look at the Jets at 7, you look at the Saints at 9, you look at the Bears at the absolute floor at 10. Could some of those teams use him at guard? I mean, maybe the Saints would at left guard. It's definitely a possibility, but first and foremost, he is an offensive tackle that probably would have upside at guard, so he could play either spot, you would think. But if he gets by the Patriots, does somebody trade up like ahead of the Jets? You totally could see that. There's some other teams that definitely could use an offensive lineman. How desperate are the Dolphins for an offensive tackle? I guess it depends on how they feel about Patrick Paul after having him in the organization, in the room for just a year now. So could a team like that sneak up if he gets by the Patriots? But I'm counting on the Patriots, but they can go multiple different routes there. We wouldn't expect Hunter or Carter to be available, but could they go the other tackle with Membu? But feels like Campbell. Teams are expecting him to be gone before they pick, and that's even around the Saints and Bears range there. So big-time prospect that is on the rise and firmly in the mix in the top 5. Jahdae Barron, another top prospect here, first-round guy, corner from Texas. Some people knock him because he's a little smaller, and maybe he has to play slot corner. Well, he played outside corner at such a high level, but he's versatile enough to play both, align in different spots. And those defensive backs in today's NFL are so valuable, so valuable. The guys that can play multiple spots, even defensive backs in general, but I think the nickel position is at an all-time high right now as well, but I like him outside that also could play inside. We saw it, Byron Murphy, guy from Minnesota Vikings, just got paid. How much he just got paid. He's a guy that plays outside and inside. Those guys are extremely valuable right now, and his change of direction skills and quickness are on another level. So just unique and kind of rare, in some areas. So I think he's going to go a lot earlier than what people think. He's starting to get a little bit of buzz lately. I think his ceiling is high. It might sound bold, but the 6th overall pick, I'd watch for the Raiders. I think the Raiders come away with either Barron or Genty, maybe Jalen Walker's in there. Could they go a different corner and Will Johnson? I think Barron might more likely to go earlier than Johnson, but every team's going to have a different flavor, right? Going to have a different guy at the top of their board perhaps, but I think Barron will be most liked, just where today's NFL is. All the zone coverage, nickel packages being used way more. He just fits, and you want the versatile pieces. He just fits all of that. Floor, I'd say around that Falcons pick at 15. I think he likely goes top 13. I'm really looking at the Raiders. The Panthers could be sneaky as well at 8. Everyone pegging an edge rusher to them. Maybe some people think receiver. And right now, if I had to predict, I'd say it's probably an edge rusher, but I would not rule out a defensive back like Barron, a guy that can play outside and inside corner for them. 49ers could be a little sneaky at 11, and the Dolphins definitely could use another defensive back there at 13. But like I said, the Falcons are a possibility. If we're talking absolute floor, if he starts to slip a little further than I think, but the Buccaneers around pick 19. But Barron's a guy that could be gone way earlier than people are thinking or mocking right now. Donovan Ezaraku, edge rusher from Boston College, got a ton of buzz lately. It's just we keep hearing. I heard it months ago that apparently people in the league are saying the media is too low on this guy. He's much higher on their boards than people think, and now it's popping up again. So it doesn't really feel like smoke. I heard it like 2 months ago, and we're hearing it this week. It doesn't really feel like smoke. It feels like this is a legit first-round guy. He started off as a second-round guy, and everyone's going, yeah, he might sneak into the first. Super productive. He's got length. He's got he's very consistent, big playability, and now it's like he's going to go in the first round. So he continues to rise, sealing the 15th pick. I almost pushed that even higher. We know a team like the Panthers at 8 badly need a pass rusher, and I think it's a mystery on how every team's board is going to look at the edge position after Abdul Carter. So what if? I'm not really counting on it, or even the Niners at 11. Like what? I think there's got to be some small shot, but I'd say I look at the Falcons pick at 15, and you can go all the way down to the Ravens pick. It's a really good fit with Baltimore at 27, even though I don't think he'll be there, but I do think that's a legit floor that we can look at there. I think I look at the 19th pick. I look at the 23rd pick. The Buccaneers, it seems like a really good fit. Todd Bowles type pass rusher. And the Packers defensive coordinator, Todd Halfley, was the coach at Boston College. So he's very familiar with Ezaraku. He knows he's good. He knows he's productive. It just, is he a perfect scheme fit for them? Which sounds funny because he played under that coach, but they switched to more of a 4-3. Some teams might view him as a 3-4, but teams don't worry about that as much these days. Teams used to be pretty strict on that in the past, but we talk about the Falcons at 15. The Bengals make a lot of sense as well. They could be looking for anything defense, really, but a pass rusher. And, we talked about it. Could he start to really rise up? And talk about that's crazy, but the Panthers pick, the Niners pick, the Cowboys pick, The Cardinals still a possibility, sure. I really like the Bucs and the Packers. That they may make a lot of sense as fits right now. So Ezraku, a big pass rusher name to watch during day one of the NFL draft. Amarian Hampton, a very notable, well-known running back prospect. Huge fan of his game. He checks every single box. When you see a guy this big, this fast, this strong, that can pass protect, that can catch the ball out of the backfield, downfield, checks a lot of boxes. And everyone knows he's really good, but before it's like, yeah, at first it was like he's a running back, the class is deep, it's second round pick. Then it was like, yeah, probably goes late first. Is it maybe he goes there? And now it's like, oh, he's going first round. And there's a lot of talk around the league. You see quotes from within the league that teams are thinking this could be a Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs like draft with Genty and Hampton. They're going to go really early because they're rare running back prospects. The running game kind of got brought back last year. Teams are valuing having two number ones, basically trying to replicate. Either they're trying to replicate finding a star with the Eagles have in Saquon Barkley, or they're trying to replicate what the Detroit Lions have with the 1-2 punch, just two number ones that are just insane. Two top 10 running backs in the league. So it would make sense. So he's a little rangy in the first round. I could see as high as the Saints pick at 9, trying to find a 1-2, trying to recreate Kamara and Ingram, and I think Kellen Moore would be on board with that. And Genty could be gone. He can go as early as 4, but he can go, a lot of people mocking him to the Raiders at 6. So he could be gone, and then Hampton go 9, but then the floor, I'd say, is the 21st pick around the Steelers. I'm not predicting the Steelers will draft running back in the first round, but I definitely think it's possible. They don't really have that big physical back right now, and Hampton is much more than that. Before, I'd say the floor is probably the Commanders pick. I think the Commanders would love to have him. Maybe that's a little low to be a floor because I think you can go earlier, but I really look at the Bears, like we talked about with the Saints, with the ceiling of pick 9. Genty is probably the want for those teams, and he's going to be gone at 6. I think 9 at Saints could be his floor right now. So does a team like the Bears, Ben Johnson, who comes from Detroit, who really values having star running backs, not just one. I think that's a legit option there at pick 10, even though some people might be a little surprised because they trade back a little bit. We'll see. Saints, Broncos, maybe the real floor is pick 20. We'll talk about more of the running back the Broncos could target in just a second, and the Steelers, but again, a team like the Commanders could be very intriguing, but I'd watch for Hampton. I'm all eyes on if we get a Bijan Gibbs draft, like that situation from that draft a couple years ago. Be very interesting. Travion Henderson, the explosive running back from Ohio State, getting a ton of buzz. My last mock a couple weeks ago, I mocked him to the Broncos, and I was feeling that. I'm like, it's a little bold. It's a really good Sean Payton type pick and fit. I just totally could see it. And now people are really talking about it. People are like, oh, this is going to happen. And he might not get out of the first round. That's what it feels like right now because his explosive ability is round 1 all day, even better than that. But why I wouldn't really take him in the first round is, he's got multiple injuries on the same foot. So that's a little scary. And his vision it's not awful. It's not great. And the running back class is super deep. So I'd feel a little more comfortable in round 2, but you understand how explosive he is. He's a threat on every single down as a pass catcher as well. Pretty decent pass protecting for that type of guy. It's kind of rare, so you definitely could see it. All eyes on the Broncos at 20. I'm going to continue to mock that after I said I'm glad I jumped on it early when I did. What about the ceiling here? I am not counting on him going to the Bears at pick. I'm not counting on him going pick 10, but it just feels like a Ben Johnson guy trying to get a Gibbs. I like Gibbs better than Henderson, but Henderson actually has more size, a little more physicality to him. Could Ben Johnson just be in love with that? Could he trade back? It makes a little bit more sense, not to reach on him at 10, but trade back a little bit. I totally could see that fit. Commanders at 29, you could see him in Kingsbury's offense. And then the Chargers, pair him with Najee Harris, totally could see that as well. But all eyes on the Broncos for me. I've been saying that, and I feel like everybody is kind of starting to get on the same page there. So it just feels like we're going to get 3 running backs in the first round. And that could create some chaos early day 2 where teams are like, God, we got to get a running back, and now we can't wait anymore because pretty soon they're all going to be gone. So it kind of messes everyone's strategy up, and it very well could happen with these running backs. It's going to be a really fun draft, I think, with running backs and how the edge guys come off the board after Abdul Carter. Jaden Higgins, one of 2 star receivers from Iowa State. It was funny, like a month or two ago, Higgins was the more known guy, a little more productive, your typical X receiver. He's supposed to be the better one. Then Noel was a huge riser, maybe the biggest draft prospect riser around the combine time. And is he passing up his teammate? But now, all of a sudden, Higgins talk, heating up. Just keep hearing these things that teams are preparing for him not to be available to them like mid-round 2, like he's going to be long gone before that. He could actually sneak in the back end of the first round, but I'll predict he goes early round 2. He's growing on me a little bit too. The more I watch him, I start to see a guy like Drake London in his game. I think London's a better prospect, was a better prospect. London's a little tougher after the catch, a little, more fluid with his movement. In and out of his breaks with or without the ball. But very similar movement overall. The catch radius, for their size, they can move. They're pretty athletic. So I see some similarities there. So Higgins is starting to grow on me. Like him in round 2. Think he goes early round 2. But again, a guy to watch sneak in late round 1. I see the Packers as a fit. Just feels like a LaFleur type guy here. Do they take him late 1? They typically don't take receivers in 1. So it'd be pretty wild if they did that and they kind of took a guy a little earlier here. But they always are a little surprising with their receivers as well. Like, no one really expected them to take Christian Watson. Like, they traded way up to Christian Watson. Jaden Reed ended up going earlier than where most people had him. So they're a little different. So I can totally see that one. It just feels like a Packers receiver, a LaFleur receiver. Titans I could see as well. They're looking for another outside receiver and a slot receiver. I heard they are sniffing around, trading up in the back end of round 1 to get a receiver. I wouldn't recommend that. I think one will fall to them, and they don't have a 3rd round pick, so stay put early round 2, but I could see them. We'll talk about the Titans a little bit more, what type of receiver they could target, but I could see them doing it. The Jets, a guy to pair with Garrett Wilson. The Cowboys, if they don't take one with the 12th pick, watch out for them mid-round 2, and we trade up a little bit, a guy to pair with CeeDee Lamb. I like the Chargers as a fit. I just don't know how they're going to get them unless they trade up. Well, now that I say that out loud, they have a lot of draft picks, so you put the Chargers up here as well. It's definitely another possibility. There could be a surprise team in there. But all of a sudden, after Noel was getting all kinds of buzz, still is. He's supposed to go early. He could be a sneaky first-round pick. Higgins is the guy to watch. A lot of teams a little pretty high on him. Kyle Williams has been soaring up draft boards. I mean, there's a lot of chatter about Kyle Williams. And when I first watched him, like, this dude is explosive. He wasn't really known as a notable prospect at all. I wasn't getting talked about. And then Chris Sims ranked him as his receiver too, and then everyone started to kind of get on board, and not that high, but and realize, I mean, this dude is consistent, great releases, tracking the ball downfield, just so explosive before and after the catch. So he's going to go a lot earlier, just continues to move up boards. Could he possibly go late round 1? He's kind of a safer pick. I just don't see how he's going to be a bust, but just really feels like an early round 2 guy. I look at the Tennessee Titans. His quarterback, not this year, the year before, was Cam Ward before he transferred to Miami. The Titans are going to end up with Cam Ward. Could they end up with both these guys? They have Calvin Ridley, so they could use a shifty receiver like this. They also could use a big body receiver, so this could make some sense. Chargers could make sense as well to pair Lad McConkey and Mike Williams. Packers, another team, this is kind of their range for a receiver I could see. I threw the Cowboys in here again. An explosive receiver that they could pair with CeeDee Lamb. So a big name. This really isn't news. Everyone out there watching right now, they've been hearing Kyle Williams' name a ton. And it's nonstop and rightfully so here. So definitely a guy to watch. Mason Taylor, tight end from LSU, a lot of buzz on him. I said a while ago, like, he's locked in as tight end 3, and it's becoming reality. He is not only going to be the 3rd tight end off the board after the legit top 2 guys, he's going to go a lot earlier than people think, or could at least. Could he even go late round 1? A lot of people keeping their eye on the league, keeping an eye on the Eagles with that last pick in the first round. Some talk about Goddard moving on from him soon, like very soon, or maybe near future, and then kind of getting a young guy with a ton of upside, like freak athlete at the tight end position, smooth mover, just has to add a little bit more strength, which he's young. He can do in an NFL program, no problem. Floor late round 2, I'm not really expecting that. I'm expecting earlier. I think my prediction right now would have to be early round 2, though. Could the Eagles trade back a little bit? They don't necessarily have to. They have a lot of picks. Seahawks would be a really good fit in Kubiak's, that new Kubiak offense. The Jets, the Colts, could throw the Chargers in here as well. But those are the teams I'm really keeping an eye on. I think he has a bright future. Even if he isn't good right away, I could see him being good right away. But he's a guy that I could see, maybe it takes a year or two, I could see him being real, like a star tight end, 5 years from now. So an interesting name to watch. Landon Jackson, pass rusher from Arkansas, getting a lot of buzz lately, rising up some boards, tested off the charts at the combine. I mean, checks a lot of boxes. You know, he's big, lengthy, semi-productive, explosive off the ball, has that freak athletic traits you look for, all kinds of traits that you look for that you just want to work with. And I went back, watched some film, and you start to see flashes of the athletic ability. It's like, all right, this is a guy I would kind of want to work with, pretty appealing. So I think teams are doing that right now, and why he could be taken a little earlier than we're kind of talking about. Could he be a late round 1 pick? Totally could see it. Just because, again, checks a lot of boxes. Floor early round 3. He's a little tight. That's the only thing kind of got to work with, and you wish he was a little more productive or, a perfect, world, but even though he was semi-productive, but I think he's very likely to go early round 2. I'll make a specific prediction, somewhat specific prediction. And we can get even more specific, actually. But I think a team, somewhat of a contending team that badly needs a pass rusher that did not get one in round 1, trades up from later round 2, early, or maybe like early mid round 2, and targets Landon Jackson. Somebody could wait, and maybe I'm wrong, but I just kind of got a feeling a team like the Buffalo Bills, 2 second-round picks, they actually have some draft picks. It just seems like a Bills fit as well. 4-3-M with length, explosive ability, a lot of upside. It seems like a Bills move. The Lions don't have a ton of needs other than edge. They probably take one in the first round, though. Could it be Landon Jackson? Can't rule it out. But if they don't get an edge rusher in the first round, maybe they don't like what's there, they trade up. I mean, they don't need a ton of draft picks. They don't have a ton of need. I mean, I always want a ton of draft picks. I think you build championship teams at the draft, and the Lions have done a great job drafting, so maybe they don't want to give up too much, but they can go up and grab one. Seems like a Dan Quinn type of guy with the Commanders as well, and the Niners usually look for length and speed and definitely can use an edge rusher. So those are teams that could target one in round 1. If they don't, watch for them to trade up in round 2 to target a guy like Landon Jackson. I feel pretty good about that, actually. So a guy that I talked about it in my defensive ranking video. I never change my grades on a guy after watching. I change my rank, guys that have similar grades, but he's a guy I went back and watched, and I'm like, okay, I kind of could see it with that athletic work. You can work with that athletic ability. He shows flashes, so he's a guy I bumped up actually a little bit my grade on, which I'm trying to remember the last time I actually did that after I watched the film and give a grade out. So very curious for that reason how his career pans out. My original take, even it's not that much of a difference though, but does my original take pan out or I like his chances. I like his upside there. So definitely a name to watch. Let me know in the comments which teams you think these guys land on, and if you think I missed a landing spot or missed a prospect. Let's talk in the comments here. Always talk with you guys on Twitter. We'll be live during day 1 of the NFL draft with our reactions and analysis. So join us for that. A lot of big videos coming, and maybe a live stream before the day 1 live stream, the day it all starts. So hopefully you can join us. It'd be much appreciated. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.